Hello, I'm Trey Johnson with AHA TV. I'm chatting with the Editor-in-Chief of Circulation Heart Failure, Dr. Nancy Sweitzer. Dr. Sweitzer, what types of submissions are the editors looking for?
At Circulation Heart Failure, obviously, based on the title of the journal, we're really interested in all things heart failure, and particularly heart failure itself, advanced heart disease, mechanical circulatory support, cardiac transplantation are the real focus of the journal. We're less interested in things that lead to heart failure, articles about preclinical models of myocardial ischemia, that we understand may someday lead to heart failure, but isn't really central to our journal's focus area. Whenever you're thinking about publishing in a journal, you want to look at that journal, see what they publish, see if your work fits into that body of work. I went through our journal for 2021 and categorized each article based on its fundamental topic. And I came up with this word cloud, where each topic we publish on is mentioned in a fairly global way, and the size of the font is proportional to the amount of articles published on that topic. And you can see that guideline-directed medical therapy for heart failure and clinical trial data are sort of central to what we are publishing. They're the thing we're publishing on the most. But you can see we publish on a lot of other topics that are almost as large: hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, shock, mechanical circulatory support, healthcare disparities, and risk factors for heart failure. But we also, publish some very fundamental mechanistic science, basic mechanisms of heart failure with both reduced and preserved ejection fraction, metabolism, energetics, remodeling the microvasculature. We've been focusing a little bit on COVID-19 and its interaction with heart failure. And then exercise physiology has always been a really fundamental part of circulation heart failure. And then some more, current topics that are really of interest to us. Cost, very important for our patients, palliative care, e-care, the new allocation system that we're dealing with in the transplant world in the United States. So you can see we publish on a lot of things, but really all around the topic of heart failure. In addition, we have real priorities for the original research we publish, and you see them on this slide. Novelty is really important. We want to be publishing something that we don't already know. Of course, replication is important, and we do publish replication science, but it's got to be very well done, important replication science of a finding that needs replication, about which we are still in doubt. If there's something we're not really in doubt about, replicating that is not as of much interest to us. And then validity is really important. We want to be sure you did your science really well with current techniques, best techniques, and that the conclusions you're drawing are valid, and we can trust that what we're learning from this science is something true. We want advanced heart disease and heart failure to be central to the science. We don't publish, for example, ischemia reperfusion work in animal models, because we don't think, although we understand that process may be critically important to prevention of heart failure, it's not in and of itself heart failure science. We want it to be interesting. When we read the articles, we want to be interested in it. We want to be compelled to learn more about the topic. So you need to make your article interesting. And then we're really, a journal for a physician and physician scientist audience, ultimately, as well as scientists working in translational medicine. So we want some degree of translational relevance. We want, if you have an animal study, we want to know how that's going to apply to the patients we care for in the heart failure clinic, ultimately. And that has to come through in the writing.
Dr. Sweitzer, do you have any advice for first-time authors?
Publishing for the first time is such an exciting event, but also disheartening often, because even an acceptance letter or an accept with revisions letter from most journals reads like a rejection. And you have to get used to that rejection, and you have to really have confidence in your science and the fact that you can get that paper to a place where it's going to be published. It's a marathon and not a sprint to be published. But I think the real advice for publishing for the first time is to write the best paper you can write. And to do that, you have to spend time with your data. Find the story your data have to tell and tell that story. Reading a story of a scientific experiment is so much more compelling than reading a list of findings. I want to hear how you put this story together and what you think is the importance. You have to work on your writing to do that well. You have to be able to write clearly and concisely and tell me that story in a small number of words in a compelling way. Read books on writing and writing well. Revise and revise and revise for clarity. It's amazing how many words you can take out of any individual sentence and not damage the meaning at all. So make your sentences terse and to the point and say exactly what you want to say. But let your data tell the story. Don't exaggerate the message or importance of your work. And then work with the editors. Our job is to publish the best science in our journal. We want your article to be the best article it can be. And we're working with you through the revision process on doing that. When you get a revision letter, read those critiques carefully and make your work better based on that. Whether you're resubmitting back to the journal or to a new journal, use those expert reviewers to make your science better.
Well, what are your thoughts on peer review and diversity and equity in peer review?
The peer review process is so critical to the success of our journal. We're very dependent on our reviewers being thoughtful, careful, excellent, and highly dedicated to our journal. And I will tell you that we are rarely disappointed. We have a phenomenal group of reviewers, editorial board members who really devote substantial time and energy to our journal. The American Heart Association has really prioritized diversity and equity in all of their efforts, but particularly in the scientific publishing arm of the organization. And all editors are keeping this front and center. I think certainly at Circulation Heart Failure, diversity and equity is never far from the forefront in our minds. Cardiology and cardiac surgery, sadly, are not particularly diverse specialties. Women and underrepresented minorities remain vastly underserved by our communities. But we keep this always top of mind. We are looking for a diverse group always of editors, editorial board members, reviewers, and authors to publish in our journal. And we pay attention to this at every turn. In the interest of that, I have long been interested in moving toward a system where there is available voluntary anonymous review. That is, and it's double anonymous. So you don't know who your reviewers are, but the reviewers don't know who the authors are of the paper. The American Heart Association led the way with anonymous review for submissions to the scientific sessions several decades ago now. And there was an immediate apparent effect of that anonymous review process to increase the diversity, both in terms of career stage, in terms of sex of the presenter, and in terms of non-US presenters at the American Heart Association Scientific Sessions meeting. So we're very interested in replicating that experience at the journal on a voluntary basis. So hopefully sometime in 2022, when you submit your article to Circulation Heart Failure, you will be able, if you wish, to undergo a double anonymous review process where the reviewer doesn't know the authors of the article. I also want to say that invited content of the journal, we always are thinking about diversity in our authors for that content. We have a new editor, Akshay Desai, and Dr. Desai is charged with inviting important and impactful content to the journal, but also doing so from a diverse group of authors. If you are interested in contributing to efforts at diversity at Circulation Heart Failure, I encourage you to reach out to me. We're always interested in how we can do this better. It is a top priority for the journal and for the American Heart Association.
Thank you, Dr. Sweitzer, and we'll have more conversations with the editors-in-chief of the AHA journals coming up.